A lower right leg fracture, and it was an open wound, so that means it must have been similar to what Alex Smith went through down in Washington. So he has a rod placed in his leg. He also has screws and pins in his ankle, and obviously one of the things that you have to worry about now is what Alex Smith had to worry about, and that is, infection after the surgery and all that comes along with now trying to get through this part of it. And I, like you and like millions of other people yesterday, when that came right over the phone, immediately you're thinking, man, I hope he didn't die. And then you see the accident, you see the Genesis SUV laying there on its side. It rolled over, no skid marks, no nothing, high rate of speed. And you're thinking, how the hell did he ever walk away from this thing? And it's really, truly remarkable that he did. And thankfully, he did do it. I was looking at some of his Instagram stuff. Really, it was Dwayne Wade's Instagram stuff from the day before, because he was out playing with Dwayne Wade and giving him some lessons for Golf Digest magazine. And I think he looked great. He was laughing, and it was fun and all that other stuff. And according to all reports, he was on his way to go do the same thing with Drew Brees and Justin Herbert. And if you know anything about that area where that car crash happened, it happened because of this steep incline. It's on a turn. The one officer that was the arriving officer at the scene described how he had given out many tickets to people going over 80 miles an hour in that area. Now, and of course, all the speculation is going to come with Tiger. First and foremost, he does have two kids. He is a transcendent athlete. I can think of three of them right now that are living, LeBron James being one, Heem being the other, and then, of course, Serena Williams. That when you think of them and wherever they go in their lives, they have to be on. They always have to be on because of their prowess in the sport that they play. And they are so significant and so big in those sports that, this insatiable desire to cover them and to be a part of their everyday lives. To me, yesterday, I'm with you. I felt like the press conference that the chief gave yesterday, the police chief gave yesterday, was just like so invasive.
Yeah.
Like to his private life and to the things that he was dealing with. And, was he inebriated? Was he this? Was he that? What kind of injuries did he have? I mean, did you hear some of the questions that were being asked?
I did.
I was really uncomfortable with the whole thing.
I'm with you. I think that's sort of L.A. I mean, I think especially when you're talking about someone like Tiger Woods. I mean, there's just this competitive atmosphere where people need every detail. And we've seen some tragedies out there, unfortunately, recently, and people are going to try to cover it a certain way. I'm not naive to the fact that Tiger Woods is Tiger Woods. And that level of celebrity in this country is going to be covered in that way. I understand. But yesterday, I didn't like any of it. I really didn't. When I found out that he was alive and in the hospital and recovering, I couldn't watch any more of it. Because it was just, it had gotten to the point where it was like, I don't need to know anything else other than him being alive. And I just felt sad. Like, I just felt sad for him. I felt, and listen, I understand there's certain things in his life, and there's people out there that can't stand him and the cheating and all of these things, and I don't want people to, you're defending this guy who's had all these things in his life, but quite frankly, I was just like, I don't know, I don't deserve to be this involved in his life, just as a sports fan and a viewer of this yesterday. That's the feeling that I got. Quite frankly, I don't know if I've ever had that feeling watching one of these things before in my life. Like, I'm usually the guy who's chasing down the details or wants the dirt or whatever. But yesterday with this particular issue, because he's gone through so many things, and this is another thing, and it may be career ending, but really it's not about that right now. It's about him continuing his life and being a father and being everything that he wants to be the rest of his life outside of golf. But I was uncomfortable is a great word. Uneasy is another thing that I felt about this, and it just
felt like the whole thing was so invasive.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I get it. That's what Tiger, but that's the thing. We have been inside Tiger Woods' life forever. All of us, from the very beginning. From when he was a kid on late night TV, from when he burst on the scene, from when, of course, back in 2009 with the wife and the golf club and the SUV, to his 2017 arrest where we saw the police dash cam video and heard from him, to everything. We've always been there. So I know that it may sound odd or hypocritical that all of a sudden I wanted out of it, But there was something about yesterday that was sort of like a culmination of this that really made me sad for him. And I was just like, back off. Like, I felt like almost, and I don't know Tiger Woods, never met him. I'm not a huge Tiger Woods fan, but I almost felt like protective of him in his life. I was like, come on, like, back off for a minute here. Let's not do the he's high speculation. Let's not bring up every single thing that's gone on in his life. Like, let's just not do that right now. Let's not put on these guys, and then everybody just rushes to put on guests on these cable news things. Like, oh, let's get Bob Costas to say what? Nobody knows what the hell happened. Nobody has any idea what happened or what caused the crash. So it just felt strange to me. And I don't know if I'll ever feel like that again. But yesterday it was odd and sad and didn't feel right.
But to go back to Tiger for a second, it was it felt to me like everything was just so invasive. And when you listen to the press conference and you listen to the questions and you just like, it just turns your stomach. And I don't know nobody knows what happened yet. There will be investigations. They'll figure out whether or not there was something else involved here. Was he texting? Was he distracted? Did he slip off the road? I mean, there's a million possibilities. Right. And to speculate as to why he ended up down in that ditch, I just think it's just completely unprofessional and ridiculous. My friend Scott Van Pelt, I heard him yesterday on ESPN, and I give him a lot of credit because he recognizes one of the reasons where he is today as an anchor on ESPN and does as well as he does is because he covered Tiger when he was younger and developed a friendship with him. And he said that yesterday, and I didn't even realize that. I just think Scott is so great. He's from Maryland, loves Maryland and everything else. But he really put it all in perspective. He didn't speculate about anything. All he was talking about, I don't care if he comes back and plays golf. I just want him to be healthy. I want him to be upright. I want him to be with his kids. And, of course, I'm paraphrasing here, but I felt like he struck all the right tones. Plus, he has a relationship with Tiger.
Well, yeah.
And then when you start trotting out people who have no relationships with him, and then they start talking about all these different things, it's like, come on, man. You got to stop already. But, again, I think all the coverage, especially the ESPN coverage, is because of who he is and what he's accomplished in his life. And all of the guys that are now presently on the PGA Tour and have been over the last 15 to 20 years are a direct result of Tiger making golf cool again and really bringing it to a whole different level that we never thought possible. And you see guys like Bryson DeChambeau wanting to drive the ball 360 yards. Why? Because Tiger was doing all that stuff 20 years ago. And when he won the Masters and he ran away with it and just absolutely tore up Augusta like nobody has ever seen before, all of a sudden golf became the in thing because of him. And then, all the just publicity and all the endorsements and everything that he's been a part of. And as you pointed out, his personal life, we all feel like we've grown up with him. And that's why we have such a, I think, powerful reaction to any time we see something like this. And this, of course, comes about a year after when Kobe Bryant died in another, a valley out there in California in a helicopter crash. So thank God he's alive, but he's going to have some significant long days here over the next, I would say, 6 months with a compound fracture and an ankle that basically had to be put back together with pins and screws. And then also on top of that, he had flesh wounds. So that means that it sounds to me like a bone was broken through the skin.
Is that what a compound fracture is?
Yes, it just snaps.
Right.
And it's just really sad. So I told you my teammate, Tim Cromer, I had that in our Super Bowl 23. And he stayed in the locker room the entire game, which was amazing. He didn't want to leave the building until the game was over.
God.
But so prayers for Tiger, and just hopefully we have a little bit more accurate information as the days go on here.
So in regards to his past with painkillers, I'm not going to say that had anything to do with this crash. What I will say, though, just from a concern with anybody who's through something like this, is that when you have injuries like that and you have to recover and you've had an issue with painkillers in the past, I mean, you think about those people. I've known people who have been sober, who have gone into a hospital for a surgery or one thing or another, and I can't take painkillers because it's going to change my life. I can't be in a situation where I can be on these things. So that's the thing that popped in my head. And we'll find out what happened with the crash. And they said there was no signs of intoxication in any way. And we'll find that out when the time is right, when the investigation is done. But just from a standpoint of knowing a little bit about that, someone who's got major injuries and major pain like that, who has struggled with that in the past, I mean, that's something to, for sure, his inner circle, him, his doctors, they got to keep an eye on that.
I'm sure so. And Ramona Shelbourne did a good job yesterday, too, because she just had that same back surgery that Tiger went through. And she was saying how they do give you some pain medicine for the 2 or 3 days after the surgery. And then all of a sudden you feel like you're back to normal again. That's how significant that surgery is and how much better you can feel quickly. And she was and they were kind of alluding to what we're just talking about now. And again, like, I don't mind her talking about it simply because she's living it. She's living it herself. So she's just trying to give all of us an example of what she went through and what Tiger's going through. But I see that Instagram post from Dwayne Wade the day before, and he looked like he was happy as a clam.
No, I'm not talking about prior to the car crash. I'm talking about after.
No, I'm just saying for Tiger, he looked like he was happy.
Right.
Looked like he was laughing and giggling, and Dwayne was referring to him as the GOAT, and Tiger was, kind of embarrassed by that. But that whole thing told me that, all right, Tiger looked like he was in a really good place. Like there was nothing wrong with him from that standpoint. And if he were on his way to go play with Drew Brees and Justin Herbert, that made me feel like, okay, then this isn't what everybody's jumping to conclusions about, that maybe this just could have been a distracted driving incident. He may have been on a road that he wasn't familiar with. There could have been, there's going to be a lot of things here that could be the possibility for this particular crash. But nonetheless, thank God he's alive, and that's really what matters most. And, most athletes come back from things like this. Look at Alex Smith. He is prime example number one, and he plays a contact sport, and he still came back.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm on the road all the time. As we know, there's any number of things that could put you in a tough situation. So that's maybe another reason why I was saying it just felt wrong to be like, well, here he is, Tiger Woods, high again in a ditch. Like, come on, man. Like, especially on a road like that.
Yeah,
like
let's hit the sign in the middle median.
If we find that out later on, or he admits to something like that, then fine. Then we'll talk about that then. It was just like, automatically, everybody's like, well, Tiger, here we go again. We know all of his issues. It just felt weird. But I mean, you think about too. I mean, distracted driving is a major thing, and we may find out that maybe he looked at his phone at the wrong time. Maybe he was exhausted, didn't sleep because he was in pain the night before and dozed off. I mean, I've talked about many times, I've got to talk to people on the phone on my drive home sometimes if I'm up late the night before because I feel like I'm dozing off. There's all sorts of things that could lead to something like this.
We don't really have a road that's here in Long Island, Jersey, or something like that kind of mimics the road that he was on. But I will say, you and I have been on the Southern State Parkway, the Hutch, the Taconic.
Southern State's got more accidents than anywhere on Long Island.
Right, and just a little bit of moisture on the road, a little bit of a distracted driving moment for whatever the reason why you're distracting, whether you're falling asleep, whether you're texting, or whether you're on the phone, or whether you're trying to change your radio, whatever it may be. We all know that it could happen relatively quickly. And the thing that was interesting about this is that the sheriff said that he hit a sign in the median. So in the middle of the road, he hit a sign and then must have turned to the right. And then the other thing they said is that there were no skid marks.
Yeah,
so
no
there
braking.
was no braking.
Yeah, so it wasn't like something jumped out in front of him, tried to avoid it, ended up going in a ditch, slammed on the brakes, something like that.
Kind of makes you think that maybe he did fall asleep.
Maybe. Who knows?
Because you would think the natural thing to do would be to hit a brake if you all of a sudden lost control and you hit the brake somehow, some way. But there was no skid mark at all. And this thing went full barrel down into that ditch.
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the red bell so you're notified when we have new content.